In this episode, we are going to talk about IAM summary and how to set up your AWS account so that you will not have to spend a lot of money while using your AWS to practice. Now, under the IAM summary, if you remember, from the day we started, we talked about IAM users and IAM group. Now, those IAM users that we created, those are your employee, those are your co-workers, those are the people that work within your organization. Anytime somebody creates user in AWS, so it means that those users, they represent individual person, physical person that work in an organization. And anytime you create a user in AWS, you have to group that particular user into a particular group. So you can group that particular user into maybe developer group, maybe auditor group, maybe security group, depending on the kind of work the person is actually doing. And as you have grouped them, you enforce permission. You enforce principle of least privilege, because that is the major purpose of IAM. IAM is just to control what users, what group, and what services can have access to. Then secondly, we talk about policies. Policy in AWS is always written in JSON format. And policy in AWS simply means the kind of permission that users or group can have access to. And I also interpreted how you can understand each permission whenever you see them. Thirdly, we also talk about IAM role. IAM role is usually created on services, so that those services will have principle of least privilege on another services. And that was when I talked about how you can give EC2 principle of least privilege over S3 bucket. For example, you want EC2 to only read from S3 bucket, so you only give EC2 read only permission, so that EC2 will not go to the S3 bucket to delete it or to write something on the EC2 on the S3 bucket. Then for IAM security, we talk about how you can enforce multi-factor authentication on the root account, on the user account, and how you can set password policy. And I also explained how you can set up a strong password policy. Moreover, we also talk about 4 ways in which you can access AWS. Now, the first one I talked about was AWS console. That is when you are dragging and you are dropping, you are clicking on button. That is AWS console. The second one is using CLI. The third one is using SDK. While the fourth one is using Terraform. I explained all these 4. If you have not watched it, you can go and watch it and learn about it. Because as a solution architect, they are what you need. Then moreover, I also told you that before you can use CLI, SDK, and Terraform, you need to create what we call access key. And your access key must be created on the users that have principle of least privilege on your. And lastly, I also talk about how you can audit your AWS account so that you can know what is actually happening inside your AWS account. And that was when I talked about 2 things. I talked about how you can use